What do you get when a developer who primarily deals with first-person shooters gets involved in an action game starring one of the most decorated film heroes of all time? Well, you end up with Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. If you guys aren't aware, my name is Bones, and I've decided to try and start cataloging my games with my own review scores. These scores may not be similar to what you see on game review sites, but listen until the end until you get my true thoughts and what I would compare it to. This video as well is fully spoiler free, just to be sure that if you are on the fence or decide to pick it up, that nothing here is going to really spoil you for what's to come. And just before we begin, I played this game on PC with a 3060 Ti and I played on 1440p with high settings, I think. I don't remember exactly, but the game stayed pretty consistent around 60 frames my entire playthrough, barring some small parts within the game and also when I was recording. Machine Games, a developer who has pretty much perfected their Wolfenstein formula in the previous generation, took on Indy in an entirely new story that takes place right between Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. So if you are familiar with the series, this will be a great lore device to give you more information on what Indy was doing between that time period. However, for me, I would not consider myself an Indy fan. I've watched a couple of the movies, but I really couldn't tell you what happened in them. I wouldn't say they're boring per se, but it's just not something that I find myself caring too much about. However, even with that information there, I think that this game is truly a wonderful encapsulation of everything I know about the character. His hat, his whip, his fear of snakes, and the historical side of what happens within those movies. Story. As I mentioned before, this game takes place between the 1981 film and the 1989 film, but it really isn't particularly important to know anything going on in the series at all. Indiana Jones introduces himself in the game as an archaeologist, and things happen that cause him to travel the world into many different, extremely beautiful environments that really make you want to learn the history and kind of drop you into a place similar to the Assassin's Creed series, where you want to actually learn about where you are and how historically accurate some of these recreated cities and locations are. I don't know how perfect they are, but they really did capture a lot of where I was very well. So if you are into like historical locations in video games, this might be pretty good for you, barring the actual accuracy of it. Other than that, all of the characters that you meet throughout the game are all extremely interesting, and I actually grew to care for a lot of them, which is something that video games sometimes have a hard time trying to do. The villains in this game also were extremely well written, and I think that they performed awesome. All in all, I think the story was very good, and I felt like I was actually just playing an Indiana Jones movie. Gameplay. The gameplay in this game is very mixed, and not like a mixed reception type of way, but a very mixed in the fact that you'll have different things that you have to do. One moment you'll be sneaking past a compound of enemies, while the next you'll be doing a puzzle, and then next you'll be fighting a bunch of enemies where you can pick up any weapon you find around you, and then the next is like a platform section. The gameplay varies a lot throughout the game, which I found to be extremely enjoyable. Other things. For the graphics, like I mentioned before, I think I was playing on high at around 60 FPS, but regardless, the game in my opinion looks beautiful, barring some weird hangups and things not really loading fully, but honestly, that's probably more on me messing with graphic settings than the game as a whole. The audio is also great. Indy didn't have any like quips that really got repetitive. The guards all had like good audio cues to know like what was going on when you were playing. And the actual score of the game is also perfect to what I know about the Indiana Jones series, and I don't think I could ask for anything else or different. When it comes to the voice acting and stuff like that, I mean, Troy Baker encapsulates Harrison Ford pretty much to a T. It's kind of insane. The rest of the actors in this game are also extremely high quality, with nothing that I particularly remember as like a negative. Replayability. When it comes to replayability, I think that this game actually has a lot that would keep you coming back. Each area features a ton of collectibles and side quests that feel like they have weight. The rewards aren't always the best, sometimes just giving you like extra points, but like I mentioned before, the characters are all really good, and it just kind of makes you want to get more from them. I don't own this on PS5, as it hasn't released on there yet, But if it did, this would 100% be a game that, like, while I was playing through, I would be trying to get the platinum for. Cons. Now, here comes the negative part of the review, and for me, there isn't actually too much to be negative about. However, I will say that this game doesn't really feel like a game I would come back to, and it most likely will be just a one-time play. That doesn't mean that the story and the gameplay is not good, but for me, I like to give games like another shot a couple years down the line if I can, just to see if I can like recapture the story and feel I got when I originally played it. But sadly, I cannot see myself doing that with this game. The only way is if I get like huge into the Indiana Jones series and I need to replay it because I need to know what goes on between the two movies, but as of right now, kind of don't see myself playing it again. If this comes to PS5 and is free on PS Plus, maybe I would, but it's not really a guarantee at all. Like, I'm not looking forward to the PS5 release so I can play through it again. Other than that, I think that there really aren't too many cons, other than one, when I was able to pick up a PPSH and just start shooting up an entire encampment, that kind of felt a little bit out of character, and later on in the game it kind of happens like a decent bit. And two, one of the special skills that you unlock through your playthrough lets Indy get a second life, and it makes everyone around you kind of forget that they just took you down, and you're kind of able to reset right in the middle of sneaking around, which is a little bit like immersion breaking, but honestly it helped me a little bit, so maybe it's not the worst thing in the world, but it is kind of weird that I was able to do that. Final verdict. Overall, I feel like this game is like a love letter and great entry into the Indiana Jones series. And even if you aren't into the series at all, this actually could be like a great starting point for you if you are interested. For it to be free on Game Pass on Xbox and PC, it's 100% worth it just to give it a shot and see if you find the gameplay enjoyable for you. But with just 13 hours of gameplay for me to finish the story, the $70 price tag that accompanies it kind of feels a bit extreme. I think on this one, personally, if I did not have Game Pass, I would be waiting for a sale. Closing and rating. I rate my games differently than others. On Metacritic, this game currently sits at an 86 with an 8.6 on user score, which is kind of funny, but I fully agree with that. I think that that makes a lot of sense. However, for me, I have a different scale. I am personally giving this game a 5, which gives it the label of game was 100% worth my time, but I did not go for the platinum or full completion, and I probably won't. This gives the game a similar thought process in my head to games such as like Ratchet & Clank 2016 or Stray. Of course, these are my opinions only, and maybe a replay of it would change my mind, but as of right now, I will be rating this game a 5. If you're interested in my rating system, you can go check out my lists on keeptrackofmygames.com, which I've linked down below, where I have shared my list of what I feel like would go into each tier from like 1 star to 10 stars. But like I said, I feel like an 86 is perfectly acceptable. And if I had to make my own list on IGN and similar scales, I'd give this game an 8 100%. If you played through this game, what do you think? Is there anything I missed while talking about it? Leave a comment down below, and if you're interested in reviews similar to this one, let me know down below in the comments, because I would honestly love to hear your opinions. If you got to this point in the video, I would really appreciate a like, as it does really help out my channel. And thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.